Hello from a very windy night at Bempton. It's the 6th of March and there's a few people up on cliff tops with me tonight, but I'm just having a walk up here to just cover an account that I was told. Well, I was told about it a few years ago, but I actually met the witness last week up here. Basically, it was going back to 2020, and he came up to the cliff tops to do an all-night vigil, interested in the subject of UFOs. And he came with his brother-in-law, who's a police officer. Not that that has any bearing on it, but that's what happened. And at about 10:30 in the evening, and he's down on a platform down there. You can see there's people stood down there in the distance. He looks down from the platform and there's a sphere of white light, which he assumes is a torch or a headlight, coming up towards them. They're in the darkness. And he says when he gets a bit closer, or when he or she gets closer, I'm going to put my torch on, and stepped out onto the path.
So I stood up. I says, I'm going to stand on the path so we don't startle each other, so they know we're here, whoever's coming down. As this light's coming down the path, I'm looking at it thinking there's something odd about that light, but I can't, at the time, I couldn't work out what it was.
So, either somebody's just ran away very, very quickly, or we've actually got evidence of the ghost of Big Railings. So I'm going to go back down now. They continue with the night. It's just a strange anomaly. And later in the evening his phone rings. He says it's just after midnight. I hope that wind is not playing havoc with this. He said it's just after midnight and my phone rings.
And I got a phone call from a work colleague who told me he was going to ring because he wanted, before he went to bed, he wanted to know if anything had happened. So my mobile rings, I answered the phone, and subconsciously I stood up, walked onto the coastal path, turned right, and started walking towards the old RAF base, which was on my left. He told me his partner Catherine, he'd put me on loudspeaker so she could hear what we were saying, because she was interested if anything had happened. So I'm chatting away. As I got parallel with the ruins of the RAF base, all of a sudden there's some commotion down the phone. Dan, my mate, and his wife are going, oh my God, what's this? Are you all right? Is somebody there? I'm like, what are you talking about? Anyway, he says there's a robotic voice coming down your mobile phone talking over you. So I says, what do you mean? I says, I can't hear anything, and I couldn't hear anything. I need to stress that.
But could they hear you?
They could hear me fine, but this voice or whatever it was seemed to be talking over the top of me.
So they're quite animated and they're quite worried for him because they can clearly hear him. He walks back down towards his brother-in-law and the voice has stopped. The conversation continues and he just slowly walks back up, and when he gets here again to the stones, the voices start again. Walks back down and it stops. So that's two things that night. They leave the cliff tops at about 4 to 4:30 in the morning. And as he says that, this scanner that he'd got in his rucksack in the boot suddenly burst into life, full blast, and just producing static noise. He explained to me that it's very, very hard to depress the button on the scanner, and it's never done it before in the 12 years that he's owned it. So that's three things that happened in one night. I also need to note that his friend who heard the voices coming down the phone during the conversation is an audio technician, and he sets audio equipment up for bands and different events.
I'd got an airband radio. I'd completely forgot I'd fetched it out with me. And
same night?
Yeah. It was in my rucksack. Totally forgot about it. We'd packed up, walking back towards the car, this 2:45ish or something like that in the morning. Opens the boot, puts my rucksack in. We both get in the front. I turned around to my brother-in-law and said, well, that was a strange night. The minute I said that, my airband radio turned itself on. And the on-off button is recessed, so you can't accidentally turn it on. And I've had it about 15, 20 years, and it's never ever done that. I've never done it since. And I use it regularly. It scared my brother-in-law to death. That's the thing that freaked him out the most about that night.
And I'd just like to say that if you like what we're doing, if you like what we're putting out, please press the like and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time. I may even update later tonight if we have any luck along the cliff tops. We shall see.